Hi. Hi.
Hi,
Well, welcome. You don't look like Jeff Turner.
I don't,
No, you
and
don't.
I
And the
don't
voice is
feel like
different
it
and
either.
everything.
And I'm not, I mean, he is so adorable,
He
so absolutely adorable and full of
is.
wisdom and all
He,
of that. I cannot fill his shoes, but I'm here to,
you fill a different pair of shoes, honey.
that's right, I have my own shoes.
You do. Ask Cinderella. A pair of shoes can change your life.
That's true. I might have to try his on sometime.
I know. I
But thank
know.
you for having me on. I think this is the second time I've been blessed enough to do soul school with
Oh,
you.
I love it. Yeah, well, usually you're in his seat right now in a slightly different place. You're both in Michigan, but
Yes.
slightly different place. So anyway, class is in session, as we all know, and I'll repeat it for Deb as well. Deb DeRoos is my very special co-host tonight. The thing about Soul School is the lessons come after the tests, and the last few weeks have been loaded with tests for a lot of us.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's something in the stars, if it's the swirling energy, but class is in session and we are as much the student as the teacher. It's very important to not draw any line of demarcation between what we're saying and doing and who is listening and participating out there in cyberspace. So, that said, tonight is I think, a very important show. Um, I'll bring you up to date. I'll just take a couple of minutes, for those who are following my progress. I spent hours and hours in the hospital today for my normal appointment follow up. I was supposed to start my chemotherapy again today after 7 days of respite, but there was some issue with shipping from the manufacturer, and I don't have my chemo yet. So I asked my doctor, is this like the end of the world as we know it? If I don't have it like immediately the day I'm supposed to start my fifth regimen, and I was there for my infusion and stuff, all the stuff that goes with, that horrible C word.
Mhm.
And she's like, no, no. I said, well, the way I feel about it is everything happens for a reason. Everything, even if that reason is not revealed to us. But I had a night filled with med stress dreams. And I just said, nope, no, I am not going to worry about this. I am doing well. I am in recovery. I don't know how long it's going to take or, what's going to be involved, but I do know that a few days, one way or the other, isn't going to be the make or break point for me, because it's not just the medication, it's everything and everyone else that is participating in my healing.
Mhm.
And so for that, I just want to thank everyone. And for those that knew that a lesion was discovered at the back of my throat, it is gone. It is gone. And that was the best news that I could have gotten today, because that was a quiet concern of mine, because no one is sticking a scalpel down my throat. It's not happening. So it needed to heal. And so it did.
It got
So,
out.
so that.
Yes.
Now, tonight, what we're going to talk about is something that, we started really breaking into last week on Soul School. And then I did your show with Dana on Sunday
Mhm.
night, and we addressed this topic as well.
Right.
So for anybody that missed that, I've got you for Soul School. I've got Dana for A World Awakening in an hour. And so we're
Perfect.
going to we're going to recover some ground, okay?
Right.
All right. So for those who have not read the description that goes with the show tonight, allow me. The title being Good Grief. Charlie Brown, Good Grief. What's so good about it? I mean, look at his face.
Isn't he adorable?
And it he is the personification of disappointment in life. He is. Charlie Brown and Peanuts and that whole gang taught lessons to us as children that we carried into our value systems as adults. And so the question, good grief, what's so good about it? I think needs to be addressed. So anyway, I will read the brief description for the show, and then we'll leap into it from there. Human beings are sentimental, emotional creatures who most grieve our loved ones lost during the holidays. The empty seat at the table is a stark reminder of a glaring absence. Acknowledge them, include them, welcome them home to their own family gathering. We shed tears for a reason. Let them flow. The pain comes in choking them back. So let them flow like the river of life. Don't drown in quiet despair. Celebrate the season of light together. I'm sorry, this is our first Christmas without Mom.
Yeah.
And so I know of what I speak. And sadness serves a purpose. It exists in us. It's embedded in us for a reason, because without it, we would not be able to express love, the love of a lost one, that the empty seat at the table is kind of like the empty nest syndrome when parents send their kids off to college and suddenly they're the only two sitting at the table and staring at each other going, oh my God, should we size down? Are they coming back? Because you don't know these days. But I think that it is healthy for us, the brokenhearted, to cry our hearts out, because it's cleansing and healing, and it's an expression of love. And it is the only true measure of love, is the corresponding grief that accompanies a profound loss in our lives.
Right.
So, and I repeat this frequently, but Leonard Cohen, the great lyricist and poet, said, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And I believe that too many people suffer in quiet despair. And so what is good about grief? Grief is a shedding and an expression and a healing from a loss that we cannot even fathom. And I've been through it twice now, with my sister April in 2017 and our mother this past June. So I'm thinking about those who suffer during the holidays. And I just wanted to share something. I was out on the back deck right through that door a couple of days ago. And right after Mom died, someone, I don't even remember who, we received so many beautiful gifts, but someone sent a set of wind chimes to us. And it had her name printed on the bottom, the thing that makes the noise. And on the other side, it said, through the storm or the lightest breeze, listen to the wind and think of me. And all of a sudden,
Beautiful.
I'm sitting out there, and I never know when it's going to hit me, Deb. I
No.
never know when it's going to hit me like a brick in that forehead, like whoosh, like it just happened, like they were just taking her out of the house. And I started to sob uncontrollably, just sob. And Peanuts looking at me like, what is it, Mommy? Can I fix it? Can I help? And she couldn't. And she jumped up in my arms and started licking the tears off my cheeks. And all of a sudden, on a completely still day, those wind chimes that were hanging behind me started ringing like the bells of St. Mary's. And I looked up. I couldn't believe it, because I looked around the yard and there was no wind. No leaves were coming down. No branches were moving. There was no wind. And I looked up, and something had a hold of the bottom that has the writing on it up with my mom's name on it, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between the house and, I mean, a straight line back and forth in a way that the wind would never blow those chimes if there
Right.
was wind. And I just looked up and I was like, "Hi, Mom." I knew it was her. I knew it was her. And she knew I was suffering. And she was here just to offer me solace and comfort. And I immediately reached out to Jeff and I said, "This is what we need to do Friday night." And so now I'm telling you what we need to do Friday night. And that is to acknowledge that we are all surrounded by spirit and by our loved ones. And acknowledging them will bring them closer to us. And based on what you do, Deb, and your ability to connect, I want your take on this. I want, how do you feel about this subject? I mean, tell me your perspective on all of this.
Right. Well, I think it's very, very important that we talk about it. Number one, seeing your pain, Andrea, and knowing I've had my own losses. I've lost my son, my stepson, my mother, and my father. And holidays are difficult.
Yeah.
They can be very painful, but I think it's so important that people do talk about it, especially this time of year.
Yeah, don't internalize it. That's damaging.
Exactly.
Let it out.
Exactly. Yep. And, I think that you are one of the perfect people to talk about this right now, because everybody knows that your grief is so raw and so real. I mean, you barely dealt with the loss of your sister, but she has been fantastic at saying, "I'm right here and you're not getting rid of me."
Yeah.
Spirit's always around us.
She has been that, yes.
I love the fact that your mom has also done the same thing. She might not be as mouthy as April.
Yeah, that's one thing.
But she's definitely around. And the wind chimes, you hadn't told me that story. Now, you sent me a photo that knocked the wind out of my sails for a few minutes, I have to admit. Mom sitting there on the deck.
Yeah.
And I felt it so deeply, because to know her is to love her.
Yes.
But if we don't talk about this, then people sit in silence and carry that grief all alone.
And often, and way too often, isolate themselves because they're so afraid that it's just going to do what it did to me, just bubble up to the surface from a wellspring of grief. Just all of a sudden, and you don't know if it's going to happen when you're sitting watching Jeopardy, or you're around a table with your whole entire family and somebody mentions grandma and boom, there it is. But it's important to mention grandma. It's important to include grandma, even if that means physically leaving a space at the table for her.
Exactly. And I think it's a good idea to have a space physically with the plate, with whatever you have in front of you, have in front of her. I can't tell you how many times I've had coffee with my mother.
Yeah.
Because it's something we always did in life.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I really want to talk to her, I just fix her that cup of coffee and say, "Okay, damn it, sit down. We're going to talk."
Let's have a talk.
It sounds a little bit insane. It really, truly does.
The only thing that makes sense to me. Spirit is real. It exists. I've known it almost my whole life. It's why Mom wasn't afraid to die. She knew there was life after death in some way, shape, or form. She knew she would be with her parents and her siblings and her daughter. She knew it.
Right. It's still hard for them to leave. Yeah. I know that, your mom did not want to leave you girls.
No, she didn't.
More for you than for her.
Yes. Yep.
But she's not gone, and we know that.
No, and now
And
she's out of pain. And I think
Mhm,
that one thing that people suffer with the most at the holidays is not only the loss, but maybe privately their own relief that the pain is over, that it's over.
mhm,
And I will admit that I felt some guilt around being, oh,
mhm,
finally she's out of pain, she's out of torment, she's out of dementia, she's, back to being
mhm.
Carolyn,
Right.
and strong and resilient and vibrant and radiant, and that she has reclaimed that now
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
the vessel failed, as it will with every single one of us
Mhm.
eventually.
Right. Right. Yeah, and it does. But you keeping her there with you, she doesn't need that vessel. But that's one thing, Andrea, that we have to realize with when we love somebody, especially that kind of the highest love, just
Yes.
our family, our loved ones, those
Yeah.
people that are so close to us.
Yeah.
When they suffer, we
We,
suffer.
yeah.
I went through it with my mom. I lost her to pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
And it was, horrifying for her. And I felt the same way when she passed, um, and felt guilty.
yeah.
But when she took her last breath, I felt this just the sense of relief that she's no longer going through that kind of pain, that kind of agony, the fear, all of it, that is over for her. And her spirit could be free, and I felt it
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah.
But it's our human nature to feel guilty
Hmm.
for having any kind of a good feeling at the loss of somebody that we love.
Yeah.
But it's because we suffer with them.
Yeah.
And grief is, when we cry, when we fall. I can't tell you how many times I have been in a grocery store because my son and I love to shop together. Um, I always took him grocery shopping. I will just look at something, smell something, see something, and totally
Trigger.
come apart. I have gone right to my knees in the middle of a grocery store. But that, to me, is that love.
Yeah.
It's love. When we feel that grief and we get hit like that, it reminds us that we love that person so deeply that being without their physical presence
Yeah.
is that painful.
Yeah.
So when we grieve in some way, we're honoring them
Hmm.
and
Yes.
and helping ourselves release
Yes.
that. So
Absolutely. No,
good grief, you
good
know,
grief.
right? We don't like to cry. We don't like to fall apart, to feel that intense pain, but that's intense love.
Yeah. And people are afraid to express that emotion because, especially with men, they
Mhm.
feel like it's a loss of control of themselves, of their own person, and
Right,
that it's a sign of weakness, when actually it is a sign of strength and resilience.
right, right. Denial is not a good thing. It's
No,
not good for us on a mental health level.
no.
It's not good for us on a physical level
Yeah,
because when we're in
internalizing any
denial,
emotion. Wouldn't you agree?
exactly. Oh, exactly.
You
Because
know?
you're holding that in. And, you know, in doing the healing work that I do, one of the most common things that I find when I go through someone's emotional field or their auric field is their emotional field is all bottled up and their energy can't flow properly.
Yeah,
And what happens with that is it'll bottle up and it ends up going internal and
yeah.
it will cause physical issues.
Hmm.
So that good grief has to happen for our own good.
Yeah.
We
for our
need
own good.
to release it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
we pretty much said everything we need to say on this subject in about 10 minutes. Wow. See, and that's why I needed you to be here too, because
Music.
it is. Oh, I know, me too. I'm all choked up. Did I bring my frickin' tissues with me? No. Where are they in the room? I don't know. I'm using
You
tissue.
want one of mine?
Oh, fine. All right. I don't even know where this tissue came from, where it has been. I just pulled it out of my sister's trash.
Oh my goodness.
And now I'm giving it a second life. Here we go.
Yeah.
Even tissues have an afterlife.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it
But,
doesn't.
Andrea, I think that it's more important this year that we do talk about this and we make it okay for other people to talk about it,
Yes.
just because of the amount of stress and anxiety and
Yeah.
fear that people are feeling right now, anyways.
Yeah.
With everything that's
going on.
Mhm.
In the last few months, I've heard the phrase permission structure probably 1,000 times, where I'd never heard it before. And it came into use in our society for a variety of reasons, but I want to repurpose it and offer to our viewers tonight this permission structure to express themselves emotionally, no matter who sees or who hears or who feels your pain. Because one of the most important things that we share when we share our grief is we're giving an opportunity to the person or people we're sharing it with to feel empathy, not just sympathy, but empathy, because chances are really good they've lost someone too. If you get to a certain age, I'm so lucky to still have my dad. Oh, he sends his love to you, by the way. He loves you like crazy.
I
Yeah.
love
Yeah,
that.
he thinks
All my heart.
RJ's a hobbit or a gnome. I'm not sure which, but a magical creature. Anyway, no matter what, a magical creature.
I think he has told him that.
Yes, I know that he has. Yes.
And he won me by telling RJ that he robbed the cradle and he had no business being with somebody as young as I am.
I remember.
That I should be
remember
with your
that.
dad instead.
Yeah, that was Sault Ste. Marie, I do believe.
Yes.
Yep. And, the thing that's so wonderful about you is that, well, among many things, is that I can pick up the phone and just pour my heart out, and you get it. And you can pick up the phone and pour your heart out with me, and I get it.
Absolutely.
Now, and to have someone, anyone in your life that you can be that open with is just a miracle. It's such an incredible blessing, but it's also an opportunity for those who might not share as openly and readily as the two of us do,
Right.
to find someone and someone that you know and someone that you love and you trust, and just let it out and give them the opportunity to see that hidden part of you, to touch your heart in a way, just simply by listening, giving you the freedom and the space, that sacred space, to share these deeply seated emotions that crack open in us because they're buried so deeply in the dark that when they crack open, the seed rises to the surface and creates a blossom to be celebrated by the world. And that blossom is the memory of the loved one. You've talked to my mother many times on the phone, but you never had the opportunity to meet her in person. Do you feel like you knew her any less because of that?
I knew her.
Yeah.
I knew
And
her.
she knew
We
you.
didn't have to have physical contact. And it's funny that you say that, because I was going to actually bring that up tonight. That there is, you still can connect with somebody in the same way
Yeah.
without that physical connection.
Yeah.
Just knowing your mom, feeling her essence
Mm-hmm.
was all I needed.
Yeah.
And I could be talking to you and just hear her voice in the background a little bit,
Yeah.
and I would melt.
I know. And
So that's
she told you over and over how much she loved you, and
Mhm.
she meant it.
And
She
I
didn't
love her.
have to have you sitting on the bottom of the bed
Mhm.
with her. She loved you immediate. She pre-loved you because I love you so much, and I told her all about you, and it
Oh, I
all.
hope not all of it.
Well, not everything, Deb.
Okay, good.
Some things we girls have to keep to ourselves. But no, she had a real sense of your essence, of your spiritual essence. She knew that I trusted you with anything. She knew that. And so therefore she trusted you with anything. I mean, it was a real cosmic connection that occurred, years ago whenever I was up here, even if I wasn't living here anymore. And
Right.
we get on the phone and here she was, and I just put it on speakerphone and
Yeah.
she would join into the conversation, which was so exciting. And she would say to me, you have the best friends. You have the best friends. And I was like, yeah, well, more than friends. I have a lot of friends, people that I know relatively well and people that I can't wait to see when I go to events and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. But then I have star sisters and star brothers. And you are one of my star sisters. We go back millennia. We will go forward millennia. I know that. I knew it from the moment that we met. From the moment that we met. And we
Me
threw
too.
ourselves into each other's arms and didn't let go.
No, and we still haven't.
And we never
We
will.
never will.
And remember how pissed we were that it took so long for
Yeah.
us to have our reunion on this
Oh,
plane of action?
absolutely.
And wait till I was, in my 50s. 50s, I had to go through 50 years, and
Right.
now I'm 66 and
Yes, we are. We're both
yes, we are.
66.
We're born like just this like 5 seconds apart from each other. And I'm so grateful. I'm so, so grateful to the universe that it brought you into my life and that we can share our joy and share our pain and hold nothing back and
Mhm.
be brokenhearted together and be celebratory together and have, the whole entire spectrum of human emotion that's all tied up in each other's lives. And it's that. Remember when I got my diagnosis and I called you right away and I said, girl, time to circle the wagons.
Yeah,
Time to circle the wagons.
I will
And
never forget that phone
Liddy,
call.
you, Amy, I've got a cluster. We've let a few men in, but mostly it's just a cluster of women's wagons circling this fire in the center from which the phoenix will rise. And we all know that. And we are all
Mhm.
practitioners. We all know the power of manifesting and manipulating energy. We know how. I think we were born knowing how. I think I was 17, 18 years old when I was like, what is this about? Why is the word witchcraft such a taboo word when it's just making magic? Because
Mhm.
magic already exists. It's just science we don't understand. Now, how can I manipulate this energy to bring good into the world? I've
Mhm.
never practiced black magic, and I know you haven't either. I'm what some would call a white witch.
Mhm.
I don't go advertise that or anything. I don't, that's not part of my moniker or
Right.
my post-it note that's stuck on me, but
Mhm.
it is an accurate description of what I do. Part of my healing right now is practicing white light magic
Mhm.
and connecting with the universe, with everyone out there, everyone.
Mhm.
But on Earth right now, you are my star sister. Lenny is my star sister. I have got a cluster, my bright lights in the firmament that I count on to be there every single day.
Yeah.
And you never, ever fail to answer that call. And I will never fail to answer your call.
Right. And
Well,
it's
I
so
want you to
important
know,
that we have this. We're so blessed.
yes, and you're such an integral part of my healing.
Oh,
You are.
well, and I feel every bit of it. So,
I know.
I know that we're going through this, and I'm sure that Lenny and some of the others can say the same thing, that we're all going through it together. It's
Yeah, we are.
your temple that is carrying it and getting rid of it, but
Yeah,
we're all going through this together. And
yeah,
I'll tell you, Annie, if I could advise people to do anything in their lives, open up to friendship.
yeah,
I mean, seriously,
yeah. Be not afraid.
lifesavers. Yeah.
Just put yourself out there. It
Mhm.
is the fear of rejection or the fear of dismissal or being ridiculed or belittled that keep people from expressing the depth of their emotion.
Right.
Even if you only get a few sprinkles from the top,
Mhm.
and somebody was like, oh, you can feel if somebody's uncomfortable with it and is starting to move away, then
Right.
that's the wrong person.
Mhm.
The wrong
Yeah.
person. Find
Yeah.
another one.
When you connect with somebody, when you meet somebody and you feel that connection, and I realize,
Yeah.
some people are trying to, they've been hurt, they've had,
Mhm.
things happen in their lives, so they're not very open to
Yeah.
friendships and relationships. But work on that seriously, because that's everything. We have our families, we have people that we love immensely, but we're human and we try to protect our families, so we don't always tell them the
Right.
deep dark things that we tell one another, or even just, you know there's been times, Annie, that we've been on the phone and we're both ugly crying so bad we can't talk.
Yeah.
I don't
Gasping.
know that I
Yeah.
would, you don't do that a lot with your family,
Right.
or I don't, because I want to protect them
Right.
from my emotions. I'm so blessed to have you in my life. I really, truly am. I don't know what I would do without you in my life, and then I'm blessed to have people like Val here. And,
Yeah.
I, like you, I have my handful of people, and we're just so close. And, we build that trust.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. So if you have people that you can talk to, I understand the importance of getting therapy,
Yeah.
seeing a counselor, getting some mental health help. That is important. But sometimes when you see a therapist, you just, like you were saying before, you need to be able to release your feelings.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And sometimes you're paying somebody to sit across from you and say, well, okay, this hour is done.
Hmm.
And that's that. But at least you got it out.
Right.
Where if you have the friendships, even if it's one,
Yeah.
and you can get that hug afterwards and know that this person doesn't care if you've done your hair and your makeup, and you have snack coming out your nose because you're crying. you know you've seen me that way, I've seen you that way. It's all good.
Yeah.
um,
It is. It's all good
it's
grief.
all good. It's all good grief. So grief doesn't have to be horrible. It can be bonding. It can be
Mhm.
healing,
Yes.
not only of the emotional and spiritual self, but the physical self too.
Yes. Yeah. well, I really do believe that internalizing our emotions, especially our darker emotions, creates illness. And I really do believe that. I think that
Mhm.
how we think is penetrates the vessel, from our mind into our body. If we're holding it in and holding it in and holding it in, it's going to manifest
Mhm.
some way or another. It's going to manifest.
Right.
And sometimes the littlest thing can trigger it. And if it's already been cleansed and removed, and you can just breathe through it, breathe through it, so that you can get home in the privacy of your own living room and call your best friend, reach out to a sister who is feeling the same thing, and maybe we should talk about this. And oh my God, I just cried in the Walmart parking lot for 20 minutes sitting behind the wheel of the car, and oh my God, you might have to come get me. That happens with people. Where it
Mhm.
hits all at once, it gushes out completely. They cannot even believe how much was pent up inside of them, to the point where it breaks them down. Well, it's not just breaking them down emotionally or spiritually or psychologically, it's breaking them down physically as well.
Mhm.
If you let it out naturally and incrementally as you're feeling it, I think that's a much healthier approach, even if you're
Absolutely.
talking about it to your dog or
Mhm.
your cat or your bird, to some soul, some being
Mhm.
that is able to respond to you, like the peanut butter. Hold on, let me
Right.
check. Peanut butter, it's just the upside down dog. Oh my God, upside down,
Aw, hey, peanut butter.
upside down dog, peanut. Oh, there goes that tail. There goes the tail. That's my baby. Baby.
Oh, yeah, and we cannot dismiss the loss of our fur babies.
Oh,
Because
oh,
we lost two this year, and I can tell
I
you,
know.
I
And back
miss
to,
my family,
yeah,
and it's I've had years, and that's very hard this
yeah,
time of year. But my animals, oh my gosh, I mean,
yeah. Well, that's
and
another thing we shared, Deb, is our deep love of our, I really, I can't even think of her as a pet. She's not a
right,
pet. She's a member of the family.
yeah.
Sammy is a member of the family. The cat that only loves me because of my ability to open a can of food or the door.
Right.
I know on some level she appreciates me.
Hmm.
She just doesn't like to show it because it makes her feel vulnerable. And she's really Christine's cat, really. Um, but, one of the reasons that I feel that I've got so much fight in me to vanquish this disease is because this month she turns 6 years old.
Oh my,
Chihuahuas can live to be 20 or older
wow.
with a modicum of care. I am not. She's lost her grandmother, who she adored. My mother died with that dog in her arms. Okay. And I can't leave her. I rescued her with my mother. We saved her. And I can't leave her.
No.
I can't. And it's not that Christine wouldn't take care of her for the rest of her life. Of course she would. There's no question of that. But I rescued her. I
Hmm.
saved her life. And I owe her my presence after all she's been through in her 6 short years, 5 of which have been blissful, correct?
Very blissful.
Blissful, correct?
Oh.
Blissful, P? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. There goes the tail. Blissful, to the point that I'm sure she doesn't remember the first year
Right.
of what she went through
Hmm.
when I found her. I knew it was horrible. I knew it. She was injured. She was starved. She was freezing, and she was terrified.
Hmm.
And She doesn't remember any of that now. All she remembers is the last time I kissed her belly, which was, I don't know, like 20 minutes ago. And we've got that. And when I was crying on the deck, she knew, and she jumped right into my arms and licked the tears off my cheeks.
Yeah,
they know.
do. They just know. They sense it. They feel it, and they're so compassionate.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing about losing a pet too, is you lose that the companionship with them.
Yeah.
It's totally different than with humans.
It is.
It really is.
And in some ways, dare I say, in some ways, it's even more holy. Because we have the ability to share and express ourselves and share our emotions with each other, certainly through language, through telepathy, but we have that telepathy with our animals, but they don't understand what we're saying. They do understand what we're feeling, and they tap into that. And so for me, that is higher love, highest love.
Yeah.
Now, when you reach that kind of eye contact with an animal, and you are peering into their soul and they are peering into yours, and no words are necessary at all, that I really do believe that those of us that truly love and adore the creatures of the world are better able to express ourselves with other human beings because of that connection with our animals.
Right. And isn't it funny that people like us do tend to be drawn to one another? I mean, if I think about my friends, people that I truly love, I don't have any friends that don't like animals.
Yeah. And don't
just
usually have a slew of them. I know.
So it's funny how that division is there, but animals are so forgiving and so loving. I've always had rescues, and you rescue some of these animals from shelters who have been terribly abused, and you would think, as if you were human, you would never trust another human again.
Yeah, and never recover from that trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
They do. I don't know if they recover.
Yeah.
But they still love you unconditionally.
Yeah. It's an affection that they're able to express no matter what they've been through in their lives. And that is not usually true of human beings.
Right.
Children that have been terribly traumatized and abused struggle as adults with relationships, for instance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this holiday season would really be a perfect time if you're lonely, if you have extra love to give, if you need some extra love.
Yeah.
Contact your local shelter and rescue.
Save a life.
Yeah.
Save a life and integrate it into your own. Make a spot on the sofa, maybe even like me, make a spot in the bed.
Yeah.
Now, I never sleep without my dog. She is just with me all the time. And this morning, oh my God. Christine's like, Anne, if you'd stop making a big deal about it, she'd be better. Because we had to go to the hospital this morning early, and I knew it was going to be a long day. And, I can leave her alone for a couple of hours every now and then, and she's all right. But this was going to be a 5-hour day. And so I went over to her on the sofa, and I'm like, it's okay, honey. Mommy will be right back. And she gives me the side eye like, you took a shower. No, you took a shower and got dressed up. You're going someplace. I'm not allowed to go. And you're going to leave me home alone with him, who she adores. She adores Sammy.
They probably had a party and tied up the cat.
I know. And Chris is like, man, stop. Just walk out the door, get in the car. She's gonna be fine. And I'm like, guard the house, honey, and make sure Sammy's okay. Keep an eye on the cat. Don't chase the kitty. And she's like, will you stop? You're just getting her all, look at that face. And I'm like, well, look at that face. She's like, she's wearing that face right now because of what you're doing. And she's probably right about that, but it's kind of a little ritual. Just guard them.
They're way smarter than many humans give them credit for.
They're way smarter than many humans, period.
Yes. But with our little Nina, RJ used to swear I'm not giving her hard dog food. She doesn't like hard dog food. I'm going to give her, and she always got all her special foods and her treats, and everything was special for her.
Yeah.
And I said, but she loves hard dog food. No, she doesn't. No, she would not eat hard dog food in front of him. So one day I had put some out for the other dog, and RJ was there, and then he walked out the front door. And she was funny because she's standing in the living room. She looks at him and she looks over at the food. She looks at me. She looks at him. I knew what she was thinking. And I knew as soon as he left, she was going to hightail it to the hard dog food because she loved it. So he walked out the door. As soon as it shut, she went running over there and started eating that hard dog food. And she's just she had a little nub of a tail and it was going. And she is so happy just eating that food. So I videoed it and sent it to him. But she knew. Now, when he was around, she could not go up the stairs on her own. Couldn't do it because he would carry her up.
Right.
But if Mom was there, beep, 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 she would hop right up those stairs like there's no tomorrow. Yeah. So they know. They are so smart, and they know who they can con and who they can't. But we were very bonded. Yeah. She was just really my companion and very bonded. Yeah. But she had Daddy wrapped.
Yeah, she did. She had Daddy wrapped. Yeah. She did. Yeah. She did. I know, sweetheart. I know. And the grief, some people don't understand. I mean, when my mother lost her sister Frankie in 2011. She lost her brother John a few years later. Her brother-in-law, Frankie's husband, Uncle Guy, a couple of years later. She lost John's wife, Vivian, our Aunt Vivian. It was like one after another. It was like domino effect for about 5 years where everybody in her family that was left died. And she never shed a single tear. She knew they were in a better place. She felt comfort and joy for them being released. Each one of them had something that they were dealing with that was so significantly bad that the only escape from the trap of a body they were in was death. Mm-hmm. When her little dog Coco died, she couldn't stop crying for 3 months. For 3 months.
Yeah.
So
I get that.
It's like I went to a funeral. Our neighbor across the street, thank you, Bill, lost her mom last week. And we went to the funeral service. Christine and I went on last Saturday. And I cried for 2 hours. And the closest I ever came to knowing the woman who had passed away was waving at her across the street while I was raking the backyard. She was very reclusive. She hardly ever came out of her house. And occasionally when she did to go check the mailbox, if I saw her, I would wave. We never spoke to each other. I was dealing with my stuff and my mom and this, and, in all the years that she lived across the street. Meanwhile, Christine became really good friends with her daughter, Suzanne. And Suzanne asked us to come to the funeral service. And at first I felt a little uncomfortable about it. I was like, oh, you really knew her. I really didn't. I don't want to be in any way intrusive. And Chris was like, no, no, no. This Suzanne would want you there. And to honor Suzanne and her mother,
Mhm.
I went and I cried through the whole entire service. And it was like at the end of it, I realized I was mourning my mother, and
Right.
hoping that Mom and Joni, who did know each other, were having tea together someplace else in the universe, catching up on how much they hate this road, and and the crazy neighbors, and and it was. I felt my mother's presence in the room next to us while
Mhm.
we were honoring Joni.
Yeah.
So grief is good.
Grief
Embrace,
is good.
accept it, acknowledge those that have passed before us, because they're not really gone. They're
No,
really not
no,
gone.
no.
Well, 2 minutes
And they
ago,
can't
Bill
be.
told us we had 5 minutes. So do you have
Ooh,
any closing thoughts? He's very pushy like that.
he
He is.
is. We need to
On earth.
spank him sometime, but we
Oh,
love Bill.
I know we
Um, you know,
do. We do.
I think it's a very important show. I'm glad you did this, and I'm glad that you and Dana will continue some of this a little bit different, but it's it's good to do this, and I
It is.
want everybody to know, embrace your heart, embrace your feelings. Know
Yeah.
that if you've lost a parent, when somebody else loses a parent, you're going to feel that all over again.
Yeah.
You're going to cry at that funeral or cry
Yeah.
with the news, even though
And feel
it's
real
somebody
empathy.
else's.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel guilty about the moments that you have that you enjoy,
Yeah.
because your mom, my mom, everybody that is crossed over, they want us to be happy while we're here.
They
I'm a
do.
medium, and one of them, almost all of them say to others, live while you're alive.
Yeah.
You're still alive.
Yeah.
Live.
Enjoy it.
Um, it's so important. Enjoy that life. Do what your soul and your heart wants to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do that
So,
and adopt a pet.
yeah. So tonight, before I say class dismissed, what I want to say is that I love, honor, treasure, and adore you. And I wish everyone out there the happiest Christmas, the happiest holidays that you can have, and find your path to the light. Be that light. And so, with that, let us say we love you, and class dismissed.